steps that you need to take to walk in God's blessing. Your reason determines your reward. If you want to live a healed and prosperous life, you need to talk the way that God talks. This kind of focus is entirely devoid of a true understanding of God's goodness. Hi, I'm Dave Nalette. Thanks for joining me. One of my favorite books in recent years is Brennan Manning's classic, The Ragamuffin Gospel. In the first chapter of this book, the author opines that something is radically wrong in the church. Sadly, the very thing he writes about that was wrong is just as wrong now as it was then, if not more so. He says in the first chapter, though lip service is paid to the gospel of grace, many Christians live as if it is only personal discipline and self-denial that will mold the perfect me. The emphasis is on what I do rather than what on God is doing. We see this thought pattern exemplified in church services and Christian social media daily. Stop me if you've seen things such as steps that you need to take to walk in God's blessing. Your reason determines your reward. If you want to live a healed and prosperous life, you need to talk the way that God talks. You have to give Jesus access to your dirt before he grants you access to your destiny. These are the reasons your confessions aren't working. And this is just a sampling of the things that I've seen recently. The onus is on you, and you better be sure that you don't mess up if you want to receive what God has for you. It's all dependent on you, and more you. It's what you have to do, what you're not doing right, how you need to position yourself to receive from God, and a whole bunch of stuff like that. Hey, if you're getting anything out of this video, go ahead and hit that like button. All right, now back to the rest. Now, don't get me wrong. I do believe we've been created to respond to God and his goodness. I believe in speaking the word. I believe in giving and more. But the difference is this: I really don't believe that I'm a big enough deal to be the determining factor in what I do and don't receive. I'm just bold enough to believe that God meant it when he said he desires to be good to me. This parallels with Brennan Manning and the Ragamuffin Gospel again. Our culture has made the word grace impossible to understand. We resonate to slogans such as, there's no free lunch, you get what you deserve, you want money, work for it, you want love, earn it. You want mercy? Show me you deserve it. Do unto others before they do it unto you. Watch out for welfare lines, the shiftless street people, free hot dogs at school, affluent students with federal loans. It's a con game. By all means, give others what they deserve, but not 1 penny more. I hope it's abundantly clear, but this kind of focus is entirely devoid of a true understanding of God's goodness. Rather than developing a genuinely Christian worldview where we're solely dependent on God and his goodness. We've largely adopted an American worldview in the church, in which we think that we qualify to receive based on our works, and at the end of the day, we will just paint a Jesus-colored veneer over whatever it is we come up with. To quote American icon Betty Boop, no, 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 1,000 times no. We don't serve a God who responds with love and grace towards us because we're good. We serve a God who loves us and responds with kindness to us because he's good. Think of the 2 thieves on the cross with Jesus. According to Luke's gospel, one thief mocked him, while the other rebuked the first for mocking Jesus. And then he had the audacity to ask to be remembered by Jesus when he comes into his kingdom. If Jesus was anything like us, it's not that difficult to imagine a scenario where he responds to the second thief with something along the lines of, no, I'm sorry, you didn't live a good enough life. You know, you could have served God all of these years instead of ending up here. In other words, do not pass go, do not collect $200. Instead, we see from Jesus a response that puts our thoughts on love, mercy, and forgiveness to shame. He tells the second thief, today you will be with me in paradise. In other words, the man cried out for mercy, and he received mercy. Not mercy based on his ability to measure up or how good he'd been, but simply pure, unqualified mercy. Paul talks about this same phenomenon in Romans 4 when he's looking at Abraham's life. He tells us that Abraham wasn't justified by his works, but was justified by believing God. If it was by his works, it wouldn't have been God's grace at work. It would simply be him receiving the just wages owed to him, much like when you go to work. It isn't grace that your boss hands you a paycheck. You've worked a certain number of hours and you have an agreed upon wage for that work that you've provided to the company. It's not grace at all. But in Abraham's situation, this was granted to him apart from his works. It was grace and grace alone. Somehow we've lost this mentality in the church today. We think that we need to have reasons to bless people, that the only way to get ahead is to work harder than just about anybody else, and that it's your effort and your effort alone which has put you and keeps you in right standing with God. People constantly ask questions like, am I doing enough for God? Instead of resting in the fact that God has already done, now I qualify to receive His goodness. I qualify to receive His favor. I qualify to receive His blessing. Friends, I'm sounding the alarm bell today. It's time to move beyond simple lip service to the gospel and the grace of God. It's time to move beyond Christian-sounding platitudes that focus on what we need to do rather than receiving what God has for us. It's time to bring it back to the basics. Grace, free, unmerited favor. Mercy. God has the power to punish us, but He's chosen to show compassion and forgiveness instead. I don't have to work to achieve it. I don't have to earn it. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't have earned it anyway. All I have to do is receive the gift that's been given to me. If you really want to confess something today, try saying this: I will never again try to earn God's favor. I will never again work for God to manifest His goodness towards me. I rest and receive God's goodness toward me simply because He loves me and He's good. Once your confidence is built on that, it's easier to receive from God because you recognize that His favor and His blessing toward you isn't based on you at all. It's based solely on Him. Okay, but seriously, if you haven't read the Ragamuffin Gospel, you need to grab a copy. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to learn more about this ministry, join the Grace Tribe, or support us financially, I've got links in the description below. And if you've ever questioned the fact that your righteousness has been secured once and for all time by the blood of Jesus, click on this video right here.